And Toa Samoa, the first Tier 2 nation to make a Rugby League World Cup Grand Final. A nation that won't be Tier 2 for long if they keep playing this way. Miles, you tipped Toa Samoa against Tonga. You tipped them against England. And now they face Australia in the grand final. Are you going to be tipping Samoa in this grand final?
Mate, I can't leave my boys out to dry. I can't hang them out on the line, drying there, waiting for me to pick them up. Got to go with my boys, the Samoan boys. You can see it happening. And I think this Samoan side in particular is battle hardened from their test against England. They, as we've said numerous times, got an absolute beating uh, given to them by England in game one, and they've picked themselves up from there. They might have been a little bit underdone coming into the tournament, but since the first game, they've really picked up a head of steam and rolled through two great teams in the last 2 weeks in Tonga and England. So there's a world where I can see that happening, and I feel like Samoa, it just means so much to them to get to this stage of the tournament, to get to represent their nation. They've got some guys in that team that are just so proud to be Samoan. They've got guys that left playing for Australia, playing guys who have played for Australia for a number of years, like Josh Papali'i. He's gone and now and playing for Samoa because it means a lot to them to be in the World Cup, to represent their nation at the highest levels of footy. And I just don't see that with Australia at this point in time. Australia fans, where you at? It's everyone for everyone, and it's an all-in kind of family culture, and I really love that about this team, and I love that about Samoa, and I've got to pick them. I can't abandon them now. Wouldn't be a good captain if I abandoned ship at this point in time. So Samoa all the way.
Yeah, mate. Look, we're posting our predictions on TikTok each week as well, and that comment section was like a Toa Samoa fan reunion sort of thing, right? Like they were all there. They're all loving Bergs. Bergs, you backed New Zealand and you backed Samoa. I won from two. I went Australia and England. So look, sorry to any Samoa fans watching now. I didn't believe. I also didn't believe against Tonga. So don't listen to me about Samoa. Saying that, from my side, look, I'm tipping Australia, but I do want to bring up a bit of a narrative here. So just close your eyes for a moment and just imagine this with me. We come to the Rugby League World Cup Grand Final. Australia walks out cocky, a little arrogant, somewhat deservedly so. Best roster in football. You can understand it. They run onto the field and they're thinking back to their last Rugby League World Cup Grand Final, a 6-0 win against England. So what's Mal saying? He's saying this game we won by defense, and they come out, play a conservative style all game, and try to win in a low scoring battle. Now, their opposition, Samoa, is not going to be playing like that. They're going to come out, they're going to throw offloads. So Australia lost the offload count last game, 20-6, for example. Samoa won theirs, they had 15 offloads. But they're going to throw a lot at it, and maybe a couple of those offloads stick. Maybe a couple of those plays, that junior polo offload that we saw work, maybe they stick, and Samoa upset Australia. I can absolutely see that, and I think that's the crux of the problem and the vulnerability with Australia, in that they're too confident that they can just win by turning up and doing small things right. They need to play with flair, and
Mm.
that's something that Samoa won't struggle with.
Yeah, the thing I'm more excited about is the matchups across the park. We've got, teammates against teammates. We've got Reg taking on Paulo. We've got Luai against Cleary. It's phenomenal to watch. And I think the one big matchup that I'm really interested in watching is Stephen Crichton versus Latrell Mitchell, the centre that should have been versus the centre that was for New South Wales. I think we can agree on that. Um, but Critter has really shown up in these last couple of games, especially icing the game against England. He showed a lot of class, and Latrell's very similar. He's got a bit of that field goal energy in him. He can kick goals as well, and Critter does that for Samoa. So they're very similar players in terms of skill level. I just think Latrell's got a bit of an edge in the running game, or a fair bit of an edge in running game. But we're going to see how Critter's defense really lines up against one of the best ball runners, I would say, in the NRL. It's going to be a matchup for the ages, I think.
Yeah, mate. Latrell's the best center in the game, and I don't think anyone really compares to Latrell. He's just unstoppable. The problem for Latrell is that Australia's game plan hasn't been to give him early ball in attacking positions. So he's not getting a lot of that ball. We're seeing Nathan Cleary take 29 runs a game. We're seeing Cam Munster take a lot of runs there too. We're seeing a ton of short balls to Liam Martin in particular as well. And they're just not feeding Latrell as much as they should be. And that last game, his matchups weren't exploited. In this game, you'd argue Crichton's weakness would be defense, and Latrell's strength there would just be to give Latrell early ball, give him 15 runs in this game. Hopefully not too many of them just coming out of his own end, but give him chances to exploit Crichton. Because if they do that, then he'll win. But if they play how they played last game, then you could see Crichton coming out on top.
Yeah, especially with his mate Toto outside him as well. And what I love about that centre wing pairing is that we've got teammates Crichton and Toto lining up with each other, with Latrell and Addo-Carr opposite them, the Indigenous boys. It's just, as a footy fan, this is the kind of stuff you love to watch. You love to see. You love to see teammates backing up teammates, and I'm so interested to see how Samoa's right edge can hold out Australia's left edge, because Addo-Carr's been absolutely lethal in this World Cup. I would say pretty easily in the team of the tournament at wing. And Latrell is absolutely explosive on his day. So it's a big test for two very battle-hardened, very experienced Penrith players. They've won 2 comps. Now it's time to go on and win a World Cup. And I think locking up Latrell and Addo-Carr is going to be a huge boost if they can do that.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing. I mean, I almost think though that they've got to outscore Australia. So the big things for Samoa, number one, no easy tries. Don't like Australia cannot score soft tries like they did against New Zealand. That Cam Murray try, too soft. That can't be happening. And number two, play their authentic style. Throw the ball around. You get a puncher's chance in this game. Australia are rightfully favoured, but if Samoa are going to win, it's going to be on the back of playing a bit of a crazy style. Saying that, as I think about this game more, I'm firming on Australia will get this done. And I know you're tipping Samoa, but I'm getting a bit more confident. I mean, Australia did win 46-0 in the last World Cup in the finals against Samoa. Could we get 46-0 again? Is that the conversation we should be having? Will this game be close?
Look, I definitely think it's going to be closer than 46-0. I think we're past the point of Samoa being a team that are going to get walked over. They've got a quality side and a very experienced NRL type side as well. So it's just the class all over the park for Australia is going to be the difference if they're going to get this done. And it's in key positions, because if Farmanu Brown is out and we don't know if he's going to play, then I think Samoa are in a bit of trouble, having, potentially have Harris DeVita have him in there harder, which could be, a real test for him. As a guy who's never played hooker, he's going to be asked to play big minutes in a big game in a position where he's not that comfortable. Whereas, Australia have got Grant and Hunt there as basically backing each other up, playing it as a 1-2 punch. But I think Samoa have got these Australian forwards covered. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that. Samoa have got some big dudes, and Paulo's, again, he's going to lead from the front. Papali'i's going to back him up, and they're going to be that 1-2 punch that Australia aren't going to be able to handle. I think Mal is going to kind of suck a few lemons, because Papali'i could have been playing for Australia. I think maybe if Mal had tried to convince him a bit more to play for Australia, Papali'i would have. He's done it in the past at several World Cups. And he's played for Queensland for a number of years. So I just think Papali'i is going to be really up for this game, and he's going to want to batter the Australians into submission. And as we've said this whole tournament, Australia actually have one of the smaller forward packs out there at this point in time in the World Cup. Yes, they're very strong defensively. Your Cam Murray's, your Jake Trbojevic, they don't miss that many tackles, but they don't exactly run for as many meters as well. So getting out of their own end is going to come down to a lot of Tedesco work, a lot of Adokar off the back fence, a lot of Val Holmes potentially off the fence. It's going to be, one in the kick return. And I've said this in the past with Samoa, they have potentially the best back three in this tournament. Sawali, Taylor May, and Brian To'o. Having those three guys take it up on tackles 0, 2, and 3 is just going to be a nightmare to deal with for Australia. And I think they know it too. They've got to kick to the corners and hope really that Sawali's not going to come back and break 7 tackles and score a try, which he might do.
You're so right, man. I mean, look, the first 3 tackles, those 3 guys, and they each make sort of 10 meters plus every time they run the ball. You then go to sort of 3rd, 4th tackle, and you've got these creative forwards for Samoa who can bring it up, can create an offload. The offloads will be the key part for them going into this one. But yeah, they can be creative in this game, and that's the part of the game where Australia really exploited the fact that New Zealand forwards were exhausted down the stretch of that game, and it was close, but New Zealand didn't even look like they were going to score down the stretch. They just looked absolutely gassed, and Brandon Smith in particular in the middle, he looked absolutely gassed. He gave it everything, and I think Samoa can get away with not having that experience in this game just because of that back three. Like you mentioned, they're going to carry a lot of that work, and that means their forwards are free to sort of play a bit more creatively. One thing I would add to this Australia team as well, I'd look for a way to get Ruben Cotter in. I think they have to get Ruben Cotter in. I just think there wasn't anywhere near enough energy in the last game from the Australia forward pack, and there was tons of energy from Samoa's. And you could totally see Samoa just coming out more excited through the forwards, winning that forward battle, nullifying Harry Grant, nullifying Ben Hunt like they were in that last game, and making it a battle of almost a bit of a coin toss of who converts their opportunities. Because if you're Australia, you're not going to score a 50-meter cross-field bomb, try to Adokar again. You're not going to have Cam Murray score off a hit-up again. You may not have Jack White and sort of fall to the ground and throw an insane offload to Val Holmes again. Like, they're going to have to create some actual attack, and that's where Ruben Cotter, he comes into it. And Nanai not being in the 17, I can see why he's not in the 17, but I just think Australia is just not prioritizing potency in their game plan or their selections anywhere near as much as they should, and they're setting themselves up for an upset.
Yeah, I guess one question I was going to ask you is, Australia did look a bit disjointed in that last game. Do you think they come out and potentially play the same way, or do they not have that kind of performance in them 2 times in a row?
I don't know how happy they were with that performance. I can't imagine the middle third in particular were happy with that game. They can't have been happy with that game. They left so much on the table, Australia. So I think there's a few movements in terms of selections in the middle forwards. I think there's a completely different game plan. I think they tell Tino this time around, you're going to get on earlier in the game and you need to run it straight for your first 3 runs. And, don't look for gaps. I get, it works from in clubland, but just play like a prop because we have enough playmakers out wide. You just need to truck it up, and we want you to crank up, 100 meters in 35 minutes in this game. So I think we're going to see a very different attitude from the Australian forward pack. And if we don't, we may see an upset.
Yeah, it's music to my ears. That's what I love to hear. A Samoan upset. It's going to be it's going to be a fun game to watch. I really hope this game is close, because I think if it is close, then Samoa are the kind of team that could sprout a try from anywhere. We've seen him do it on a number of occasions in this World Cup, but Australia, until this New Zealand game very recently, haven't been tested, and when they were tested, they struggled. So if Samoa can really match the energy that New Zealand had, especially in that first half, that New Zealand had, they can go toe-to-toe with Australia. They've got the talent there. They've got the forward pack that can at least put in a really good 40 minutes of footy. I do agree with you in the sense that, yes, later in the game, it's going to be very difficult. And I actually think that part of the reason Australia won against New Zealand was fitness-based. They had a lot more mobile forwards. They went with a lighter forward pack that, has done a lot of 80-minute performances over the season in the NRL. So, yeah, I can see if Junior Paulo is being asked to play 65, 70 minutes, then there are going to be some gaps there late. Samoa's going to have to get out to an early lead and really kind of defend from there. And I'm talking like they're going to need to be at least 12, maybe 18 plus at some point. But I have full confidence in them if they get to that point that they can get it done.
Yeah, no, I can see it just on Junior Paulo too. He just got cleared to play in the final. So Junior Paulo will be there. He was put on report in that last game, which
Getting put on report all the time, man.
it keeps happening. Yeah, no one should be missing any World Cup games for being put on report,
No.
unless you've actually hurt someone or done something really dodgy.
We said the same thing about Taumalolo at the start of the tournament.
Just
serve it
play
next year.
Yeah, look, that's not consistent with how we normally feel. But like for the World Cup, who are you really punishing, right? Like you're just punishing their country.
You're punishing the whole nation almost.
Yeah, it's nah. Go punish the NRL club when they get back, unless they're from Parramatta, in which case, win them at all. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, just looking at this team, like the middle forwards coming off the bench for Samoa have been a real strength, and I could see Josh Papali'i and Spencer Leniu coming on in this game and knocking a few heads off against Australia because they're not having to play big minutes. Papali'i's only playing 40 minutes a game. They come on for last game was Royce Hunt, Junior Paulo as the other props. So these guys are all big, tough guys, and you're right. There's a big size advantage actually through the middle. I'm keen to see what they name in terms of their roster. Ligi Sao, it wasn't really touted too much coming into this. He's obviously been really good in the Super League, but he's been really effective as well. I think for the edge back rowers though, for Samoa, look, if Samoa's going to win, the edge back rowers and the halves just need to be really solid in defense. I think that's the big thing because Cleary and Munster are going to run the ball a lot and they're going to feed those short balls a lot. And if you give a cheap try to Liam Martin or anyone else on the edge, you're not going to win this game. But if they can lock that down and make Australia do something different to beat them, that's where they've got a shot.
Yeah, I think Samoa need to get those tries out of their game, like the cheap tries, as you were saying. They gave up a pretty sloppy one to John Bateman in the semi-final. Kind of, again, it was just letting England back in. Like I think Samoa had the running of it. They did pretty well to get ahead after being a little scratchy early on. But they got ahead and they were staying ahead. And there's a couple of errors here and there. And I think they really need to cut that out if they're going to at least match it with the likes of a team like Australia. And, as you were saying, the middle forwards are going to have to come to the party because the back five's great. You've got Suali, To'o, Lafai, Crichton, and Taylor May. Like, that is just an outstanding back five to have. But if you're looking towards that middle forward sort of second row area, I think they're not really set on who's a lock at this point in time. They went with Oregon Kafusi the other day. Doesn't play huge minutes for Parramatta in the NRL. You got Ligi Sao, as you said, who's a Super League player. I think might have gone with him just because of the conditions and he's so used to it over there. But Sua's a good player. I rate Jaden Sua quite a lot. I'm interested to see where his career goes at the Dragons, whether they are able to use him effectively, because he was playing Origin prior to going there this year. Royce Hunt, beast. I love him, running it up. And I'm interested because if Spencer Leniu can really fire up off the bench, then I think it takes a lot of pressure off guys like Paulo and Papali'i. I know Papali'i came off the bench as well the other day, but Leniu's that guy. He's the real firecracker. He can either come on and absolutely steamroll blokes and really fire up, and we've seen him do it at club level. He just destroys human beings for fun. But it takes so much pressure off your more experienced guys. If younger guys can come in and do that, it comes down to those players, whether they can match it or not.
Yeah, no, it just frees up those guys, frees up Papali'i to be more creative. Royce Hunt, by the way, where did he come from? because back end of the season, he just started playing, 20, 30 minutes a game, 35 minutes here and there, occasionally 40, like, and just producing these incredible stat lines. And I'm going back to Supercoach and fantasy and all that. But in
Yeah, I definitely
Supercoach,
had him at one point this year.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You pick him up in the draft off the waivers, and he was scoring tries everywhere. Admittedly against some softer oppositions here and there, but he's kicked on like crazy. And Cronulla have a lot of middle forwards, so
Well, and
it's
they're
tough
getting
on.
Oregon Kafusi as well. So who also plays for Samoa.
I think Hunt is better than Oregon, especially for Cronulla,
Oh
because
yeah.
if
Just
you're running Cam McInnes as your lock and Dale Finucane as well, they're a bit more stable kind of guys, and they're making their tackles, and McInnes is a little bit more dynamic. But surely you go Royce Hunt as a bit of a change of pace guy rather than Oregon, who's just going to play that same kind of role.
yeah, look, I think with Hamyan Ueli there as well, there's a spot opened up as well on the bench with Tolman and Fafita both calling it quits.
Oh, Fafita,
Yeah, I know.
Devo that he's going, mate. He was the
Yeah.
best.
I think with Oregon coming in, he'll definitely get a spot in the 17. He won't be playing for the Newtown Jets every week, but the good thing about Cronulla is their reserve grade. They put so much effort into it, and they've got some great players playing for the Newtown Jets as well. But I like the forward pack that Samoa have concocted here. It's dynamic. It can hit you from a number of different angles, and their front rowers are excellent ball players. In Papali'i and Paulo. I'm ashamed. It sucks that the back five aren't getting more aren't giving game time up to your boy Kenny Seo. But it's tough back five to crack at this point in
Ken
time.
Co, man, is so underrated. Like when he was at Parramatta, he was always top 20 in meters in the comp. He was always a good finisher on his tries. He's good. He's a good player. I wouldn't pick him over the guys they've got. Brian Toa and Taylor May are so dynamic. But if
Yeah.
Ken Co had to come in, he wouldn't be the reason you lost a game. That's what I'll say about him. So no, I don't mind him as an 18th man. I want to go into some predictions here. So I want us to talk about the predicted scoreline, the predicted potentially the way the game finishes, if you think it's going to be close, and the predicted man of the match as well, and not just
Okay.
the Channel 9, he's the most well-known player man of the match, but like the actual best player on the field, most impactful player on the field. So I'm going to open it to you first. I want to hear your score prediction to start.
So I think if Samoa are going to win this game, they've got to get out ahead early. And as I said, in somewhere into that 12, 18 point range, they've got to kind of jump Australia at the very start. Be a bit more clinical at the start than they were last week by not kicking it out on the full would help. I see it as a very free flowing game for Samoa. If they get some offloads going, a few of them are going to stick, and I'm actually going to throw in a first try scorer bet as well. I'm going to go Stephen Crichton, first try scorer. I'm going to say that Samoa get the win here, 24-20, and Suwali, the 19-year-old, is going to be the man of the match.
I love that. That would be a good game to watch. That would be a very good game to watch. Sawali to be man of the match, he's probably scoring a try off a kick, jumping over Tedesco. That would be an iconic moment, actually, if he outleapt Tedesco for a ball.
He copped a lot of shit. He copped a lot of shit for stepping in at fullback in that semi-final game. I want to see him get his revenge here.
Man, that was a hard one to come in at, though. No Tedesco, no Joey Manu. Souths are a good side. That final was one of the most physical finals ever as well. I think it was 7 sin bins or something. Like,
Yeah,
actually, I might go watch that game actually after this. It's such a good game. But yeah, all right. I'm going to take a very different approach here. I think Samoa puts up a fight here. I think Australia wake up though. I think they watched the film from that last game, and I think they realized that they were just so complacent. Like they haven't historically woken up in this situation, but I think they do. I think the first try is just early ball Latrell Mitchell, who just abuses Stephen Crichton on a play, cracks through, and then pops the ball to Josh Adokar for the try. Or potentially Latrell could score it himself. But it's a Latrell-centric play on that first try. For prediction for the score, I'm going to go with 26-16, Australia. I could see them being gritty, but I think Samoa is going to come out early and show a statement of intent in attack. They're going to give Australia a bit of field position with maybe a couple of errors, but they're also going to create their own plays too. Australia is going to respond to that tempo and just realize very quickly, because they're not stupid. Mel's not stupid. The guys in the spine in particular are very smart. Nathan Cleary's a winner. Cam Munster's a winner. James Tedesco's a winner. They're gonna figure out what they need to do to win, and they're gonna realize very quickly that Samoa's here to play, and they're gonna start playing some expansive footy. So 26-16. Man of the match, I think Latrell again. I just think this is a Latrell game. Like, it's a grand final. Latrell has a great matchup. They've got to give him smelly ball to let him do Latrell things. And my head's going back to State of Origin Latrell when he's selected, and sort of what he does in that arena. I think this game's going to be like that.
Yeah, I can definitely see it going both ways here. It's about. I actually think this game hinges on one point. It's about whether Australia wanted enough, because I definitely think the Samoans want it.
Yeah. I mean, they're look, on paper, the game's not played on paper, but on paper, it's clearly a more talented team, the Australia team. But you're right, Samoa's shown they want it more. Outside of that first game, Samoa has been dangerous. They've won 2 very close games against England in Golden Point, and against Tonga by 2 points as well. You could see it. You could see it. If it's close late, you give them a shot. But again, I still just think this Australia team's too classy, way too classy. And even when they're uninspiring against New Zealand, they wore down New Zealand. So I got to stick with Australia. Any closing comments from you? Any final thoughts before we close this one out?
Not particularly. I just think that we'll wait and see what happens on Saturday morning, I think it is, and we'll definitely be up watching this one. As painful as it might be to be up at 3 a.m.
Bro, 3 a.m. is the worst time slot. Like, give us 6 a.m. or 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. is brutal.
It is, but that's what the organisers have gone with, and they've clearly not thought about anyone watching in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, the majority of people watching in the Southern Hemisphere. Come on. Oh, they could have easily. Anyway, look,
especially now that England are out, just change the time.
Yeah, move the slot. Hey, look, that's the predictions from us, everyone. So I've got Australia 26-16. Latrell, man of the match. Miles has taken Samoa 24-20.
24-20.
And we've got a first try scorer there of Stephen Crichton. So we're both, we are both picking that matchup to be important. Stephen Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, match up the game. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win, and we'll see you soon.